My name is Tom Bui. I'm a developer at Valve. I am a programmer working on Steam, but previously I also worked on Team Fortress 2, Portal 2, things like that. My favorite video game probably has to be Baldur's Gate. Between Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, I really loved what BioWare did, reinvigorating the RPG genre. And I used to play gold box games back in the days, but then those sort of died out, and when BioWare came back with this game, I really fell in love with it. I first got into the video game industry because I was tired of working at a .com. Like most of the people my age, I wanted to join an internet startup and make a lot of money. When that didn't work out, when the internet crash happened, I decided I wanted to do something a little more interesting. So I actually contacted my friends to see who was in the gaming industry and got in that way. That was really hard to do, and then after I joined Midway Games and that fell under, I actually had to make a game demo and shop that around to collect any interest. And eventually I ended up at EA, and now I'm at Valve. Programming playing a role in the game industry. I mean, obviously somebody needs to program the games. So games are a combination of a lot of things, right? Obviously you need to have somebody who codes the game, you need to have somebody who creates the art for the games, you need to have people who help design the games, and of course people that market them. But without people programming, you don't actually have a game, you actually have just art, right? And there's been a lot of games that may not have great art, but they're still really good games. But I still think it's a combination of the two, but I would say the primary driver of games is programming, right? Programming and design. I think what's going to happen, and we're kind of already seeing, is that there's going to be a lot more people making games. Right now we see a lot of indies coming into the scene and being a lot more successful than they have been in the past. There's sort of been a renaissance because people can basically put their games up on PCs and distribute them on any number of platforms, including Steam, and it's really, really easy to make games nowadays, right? There's a lot of tools, and there's quite a bit of support as well. So I think more people making games, not just the AAA studios, and I think that's really great for everyone, customers involved as well. I went to college at UC Berkeley, and I chose that school because it had a really good computer science program, and I really wanted to program after I graduated from high school. I wasn't sure what kind of programmer I wanted to be, but I knew that I wanted to get into a top-tier school so that I could learn the most that I could and also be taught by some of the best professors in the world. I didn't start early enough actually on programming. I programmed when I was maybe 13, 14 years old, but I never thought I would actually be doing it for a living. I always imagined being a programmer was like sitting in a dark cubicle and programming, not having a life, which is entirely not true. So I thought I wanted to do something else. But it wasn't until the end of high school I decided, well, I really like programming. I can create these really cool things, whether they be games or programs that help other people or websites or whatnot. So it's a little later than some of my other friends who got into gaming or programming, but I don't think it's too late at any time anyways. So I think what makes programming stick out for me in terms of an occupation in the gaming industry is the ability to make something interactive. When you make art, usually it's you make it and somebody else can consume it, but they can't really interact with it too much for the most part. But with programming, you can make something that somebody can actually input something into the system and the system will react to them, right? They press spacebar and the character jumps, or they click a mouse and it fires a rocket, things like that. So that level of interactivity that with the user, that's what really is appealing to me as a programmer. It's probably going to sound cliche, but the most revolutionary moment was actually coming to Valve. Previously, at a programmer at a big or small company, you're pretty much given a list of things to do. So other people would make the decisions. You might be involved in the decision making to some extent, but not nearly as to the degree that it is at Valve, right? You come to Valve and you are basically running your own projects, deciding what you should work on, what features you want to build, along with your teammates, talking to your teammates, of course. But I think working with a team of programmers is far superior than working by yourself. First of all, you're not going to be right 100% of the time, so it's always good to talk to other people and get their creative input, get their ideas on how to do things. And plus, You're usually surrounded by people that are also really smart. You want to learn from them. There's something to be said by working by yourself where you can learn a lot just by trudging through it, but if you could just find out that information within 5 minutes versus trying to solve it by yourself in a day, it seems worthwhile to just get that information from your teammates. There's also the social aspect of being able to work on a team and making something happen. And to some degree, you're going to need a bigger team if you want to accomplish something really, really big, right? Like I can't imagine any one person making Half-Life 2, for example, or any of those games. But I mean, smaller teams can do cool things too. It's just that like the degree of how big your product can be really does kind of depend on your team size. The advice I would give to people learning to program would be to not give up. It's really easy early on to start to program and then you get stuck on really simple things, but once you get past those things, it's really, your growth will really accelerate. First you're typing in hello world, the next thing you're doing is maybe doing a text adventure, thing after that, maybe you have a Minesweeper or something like that, but there's a lot of obstacles in the way of learning stuff, but once you get past those, you can really do a lot of cool things. And there's a lot of tools and there's a lot of resources out there to help people along the way. And you should always ask for help if you get stuck. Just don't get tripped up by the small stuff.